Do you or someone you know have daddy issues? Did you know that daddy issues can disrupt your relationships? In order for us to have a successful, healthy relationship, it takes for us to mature, to have some healing going on in there, friend, because the only way that we'll actually be able to mature is if we start to heal. And the way that we go about starting that healing is actually taking a look at the wound and seeing what happened here, what's wrong, what's going on, so we'll know how to address it. Well, address the wound, but we're going to address the issue. So with addressing the issue, this comes with having the hard talks, friend. So we're going to have just a little bit of the hard talk, but it's going to take for you to take time within yourself to actually sit down and have this hard talk within yourself so that we can work on this healing process. So bottom line of this hard talk is you're either upset by what you know or what you don't know about your father. That's one. Two, no matter the age of your parent, because I'm throwing mom in there too, but it's still daddy issues. No matter the age of your parent, we have to keep this in mind, friend. Your parent was still growing, was still maturing. Even if they was 100 years old and they had you at 102, we can't just look at it like, oh, they're old and wise. It's still some things they had to learn about you, especially if you're their first child. It's still a learning process, friend. 3, changing our perspective and our perception on the person and the situation, because this is what changes our views of relationships. So I would like for us to look at David. King David. Of course, friends, because we're kings and queens. And in order for us to actually get to the place of the royal beings that we need to be, it takes for us to observe royal beings and to get the treasure that they have for us, friends. So King David, and I'm not talking about the gang King David, but I'm talking about the biblical King David. And so King David, he was the youngest. He was left out, because we're going psychologically on this thing and in the family thing, because a lot of us are looking at how we get in these relationships and using all these big psychology words, and we ain't took another class but listening to social media. So we are going to look at this psychologically. He was the youngest in the family. He was left out, and he didn't have a relationship with the woman who was present as the mother at the time. So we got to understand how David wasn't really the relationship type of person. And so when we get to Solomon, King Solomon, when we get to Solomon, it wasn't like a thing where David and Solomon were kicking it all the time. It was like, man, let me tell you about these ladies. Let me tell you about these relationship things. Let me tell you how to be a better king. Let me tell you how to serve your queen better. Let me tell you how. No, it wasn't stuff like that. And if you want to get deeper into their conversations, of course, go ahead and crack that bad boy open in Kings, and it may be in Chronicles too. But I know it for sure. It's somewhere in Kings. And so when we are observing their relationship and the relationship of David, even before Solomon got here, or around the time of his making, I ain't pinpoint these things, but it's still a thing in paying attention to the things that David prayed about and the things he chose not to pray about. And even if you hadn't read this stuff, friend, or have, we're just going to do a little talking about it. I was paying attention to how Brother Man was praying, like, man, when he was getting all these attacks, when he was by himself, when he felt like, I got to put up them dupes, these enemies coming at me. So it's like, Lord, help me out here. I know you know what's going on. I know you're going to look out for me. So it's like, that was this whole other thing. But then when it came to the ladies, it's like we hear crickets when it came to him in this conversation with God, because I felt like David was like, I know what to do, playboy. I don't need to call you on this. I know how to handle this. I know what's happening. This is my department here. And so, and so I feel like this is a learning lesson from David. And this is why we're to pray about everything. Pray without ceasing. Because at the times where he kind of decided not to pray, boy, it kind of made him pray even harder after stuff hit the fan. So we come down to Solomon. Hold on, friend. I'm sorry. I'm going fast. Now, David had mommy and daddy issues, okay? Now, this kind of shows a lot in his relationships and in his relationships with his children. So then when we get to Solomon, it's quite understandable in how Solomon is going about this thing. He didn't really see family as a wealth type of thing. He saw outside riches as a thing. You know, the family and kids, that's a whole nother something else. But he also really didn't have a dad to really talk to him about them things. So, you know, he shared some little tidbits with him. But, you know, it wasn't a whole thing where it's like there's this whole walk with Solomon and we're having this family conversation and sons and daughters, let's get together and have family dinner. And not to my knowledge, I don't recall any of that. I mean, there was some dinners happening into that, but it wasn't no dinners happening like that with all the gatherings of the folks in the back. I think when the dinners happened, there was some folks way down the line that was coming to the dinner. But anywho, when we get to David and praying about these attacks and these war, but not praying on the love. Love is a battlefield. So he didn't see it like that. And so he didn't pray on this love walk, this relationship situation. But what's really interesting, he was still God's friend. Now, friend, I'm putting this out there because this is another reason why we want to read these stories, because we be thinking these people are so perfect, and you'll see a whole lot. If you sat there and read the DSM, whatever number it's on right now, or if you read any astrological anything or whatever, and you reading all that, like, yeah, I identify with that. Pick up this book and see how you identify with a lot of these people up in here. Because, boy, I tell you, boy, I had you stroking your samurai beard like, that's some deep stuff. So what I've learned, instead of looking at these situations like, man, these people are stupid. Why he even do that? Like, they ain't make no sense. I had to pause there because my mind just went through a whole little, you dig, like the angels around, the spirits probably saying that, the demons, it's a whole bunch of stuff probably standing around like, how many times they gonna do that? Like, you gonna take your turn, you gonna do this? Like, you do that. It's you, bro. It's you. And so it's a thing where we look at them and observe not just with these eyes. Yeah, bro, I got my own sound effects. Not with just these eyes, but with our spiritual eyes. And this is in connecting with this, why we get into this whole pray situation. We got to pray. Pray over everything, about everything. Like, this is, when you see this is a love walk and get into this whole conversation and see, he'll tell you about everything. Because even in friend, and where I was going with this whole thing, even in looking at David, where I was going with this whole thing as far as in seeing yourself, because sometimes we'll want to beat ourselves up so much where we're running away from God. And it's the whole thing back with Adam and Eve, if you followed any of my other videos, where in the beginning, where they went through this whole fall situation, and they ran. And in knowing now and being in a relationship with God and getting to know God, like, once you really know the love of God, even when you fall and make mistakes and whatever, you're quicker to run to God than from God, because you know how loving he is, how forgiving he is. It's an experience, my friend. So when we look at Solomon, we have a deeper understanding of what's happening with him psychologically because of his family foundation. So it's like, I get it. So Solomon went from the Song of Solomon, which he's singing this song about wisdom. And this is like, man, wisdom is just looking super good. Like, I want some of that. But then, so he went from the love of wisdom and how he felt, because I feel like it was like he was at a point where he ain't smelt himself yet. He wasn't smelling himself. He wasn't feeling himself. He wasn't all up in the britches. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like he wasn't at that point yet, and he had an opportunity to be more sensitive to wisdom. But then we get to this situation where I got hoes. I got hoes in different area, coast area. So he was singing that whole song because he had the ladies everywhere. I mean, they was everywhere. Then he got to a point where it was like, oh my God, what have I done? These women getting on my nerves. This one won't stop yelling. This one over there is talking about what I done did. I don't even remember. Then after all that, he got to the point where, you know what? It was fun while it lasted, but how about it ain't fun right now? I'm trying to figure out, why was I even doing that stuff? Because it was all in vain. Okay, I'm sorry, you just had to give me a second. So if you are following us, because I know we doing this together, fam, with the Proverbs, if you pay any attention to what's been happening with this Proverbs situation, because friend, this is how I'm going to remember if I keep talking about it. And this is how you going to remember too if we keep talking about it. And so with this Proverbs situation, if you pay attention to any of the Proverbs, a lot of it is starting off with my son, my son, my son. Listen to the wisdom of your father. So, man, I looked at this on layers, right? Especially in looking at that family foundation. So, on one hand, and experiencing the presence of the Father and the Father of giving the wisdom and you wanting to pass that wisdom down. Then, on another level of experiencing some things that you wish your father would have told you that you want to make sure that you leave for your son. Then the other part came as far as when God steps in. And God is stepping in and using Solomon as a vessel to speak through him. So, I know that sounds crazy because this ain't no possession type thing or nothing like that. It's in connection with the relationship, because especially if you're doing these things like in journaling and stuff and you're talking to God and you're writing, this, baby, let me tell you something. This is how people come up with a whole bunch of different stuff, because it started off one way and it went another way. But it's not a thing where you want to get all into the practices of trying to get an answer to do a thing, because God will answer you in you journaling and you writing stuff through you. And you'll know, like, I know that didn't come from me, because I wouldn't even answer anything like that. And so, but it's a thing also where this is why we want to get into his word and know how God talks and know how he relates to you, even though it's different. This is why you got to experience for yourself, because you don't want to live vicariously through me. Because, baby, how about I ain't even got the words to even explain to you on how that difference feels. But it's a thing where it is so real, you'll know that it's real. And so, in looking at this on a Proverbs layer, on this layer with Proverbs, and how Solomon is receiving these words, because when you read the experience of Solomon and then these various levels of wisdom in which Solomon receives and also gives, it's mind-blowing, because at different times of your life, and looking at Solomon, the Song of Solomon, and compare it to Ecclesiastes, 9 times out of 10, these were at different ages of his life, and also different levels of sensitivity. And just in quickly reflecting on it, because right now we in Proverbs, but in reflecting on how Ecclesiastes feels along with what he says, this is also the other reason why we want to keep asking God for spiritual, like every day that we read his word, that he opens our spiritual eyes, that we can see his wondrous works in his laws. We can see his word, see how he operates, see all of these glorious things, because this life is amazing. And it's stuff, man, it's like, yeah, stuff is gonna happen, but in the midst of things happening, this is where we're constantly going to him, because he shows up and shows out. And so with the situation with Solomon, and in going through these various experiences, you will see, and once you start getting deeper into your studies, you will see that the difference between when the people are talking and when God is talking, even though it's the same person. You can even see this in Psalms as far as when David is talking, because there is a time where he is feeling afraid and he is expressing this fear. And immediately when he is praising the Lord, he is gaining this confidence, and his confidence is spoken. And what's wild is when you start to read other things, you'll see how he spoke on other situations. And David wasn't considered a prophet. He was considered a king. And in seeing how David was so sensitive, he was speaking about situations on Christ, situations on Job, situations on other dudes, and he was in his situation. And so it's like, man, this thing is layered, and we want to start peeling those layers. Did you ever go to science class where they had you cut off like a piece of onion and you stuck it under the microscope and you see all these itty bitty cells, and it's like, that's what we're dissecting. We're going bit after bit and going through these layers, because it's multifaceted. Where am I? So in looking at this, a song of Solomon and Ecclesiastes, and seeing these differences, we have to know also too the differences that are with us, and allow God to make a difference with us, because in experience. And so this is why we read our stuff of our friends and family, okay? Because we have the opportunity to see what their issues were. I mean, ain't nothing new under the sun. A lot, very much their issues are ours. No matter you rich or poor, you're gonna be sad, you're gonna be hungry, you're gonna want something going on. So it's like some grief, all kind of stuff. And so even though we have these experiences and walking with God, we may not know what's happening with our parents. We may not have the answers that we want. We may know too much. This is a thing where God doesn't want us to be bitter from these experiences. Just because these experiences happened where you may not know, or you know too much, this is a part of our being. But this is not totally who we are. When we take this walk with God and allow him to look at our wounds, to dissect it and do what he needs to do, because he's the healer. So allow him to just go ahead, because this is where the healing and the maturity process comes in, that friend. We want to go ahead and give him our hurts, whether we knew our father or didn't know our father, whether this isn't even a daddy issue at all, but a mommy issue, an adopted parent issue, an uncle issue. Pick a relative, anybody that you feel like have wronged you in your foundation, or you expected better and it just wasn't there. Now let's put this expectation in God. Let's take our time, and whether you need to talk it out or write it out, do what you need to do and give it to God. This is where this intimate time comes in at. He was there. He knows what happened. And just because you think, we may feel like, how could you allow this to happen, friend? This is part of changing our perspective and our perception of a thing. Is asking different questions. What are we to learn from that situation? How can I help another person get through, help them get stronger in the similar situation that I've gone through, that they don't necessarily have to go through, if I'm able to help them pass some things. And so, in being in this relationship, whatever it is that you felt that was a burden to you, or that you have an emptiness of, or grief is there, allow God to fill it. Now, I get it sounds simple, but this is a part of a relationship where here it is, where we're giving our problems and our issues and what's on our heart, we're giving it to God. We're asking for forgiveness. We're asking how to forgive this person if we're having difficulty in forgiving dad or mom or whoever it may have been. Because in working on this forgiveness is going to help us not to become what we hated about them. Friend, I done paid attention to some family members who really weren't around their father, but I happened to be around their father growing up, and it was crazy to see how much they were alike, even though they weren't around each other. And so we want to get to a place to appreciate, on one hand, how we got here. And on another hand, because that on how we got here, and it just crossed my mind, could have been extremely violent and could have been volatile to the mother. And even in looking at how that could have been taking out on you, letting God fill that emptiness with that. And when we take time out and talk to him and give him those things, and anytime those things come back to mind, a lot of times we have to remind ourselves, and I gave that to the Lord. I gave that to God. I gave it up. I don't even have it. I'm not even about to think about it right now. And a lot of times we need to go to the word. We need to ask God and see what he says. We need to get to in a place of, well, God, what do you think? What do you say? What's your plan? What should I be asking? and include him in, because we won't want to be interested in the things that he's interested in. And also, as far as with this forgiveness thing, when we're in this love walk, it helps us to forgive quicker. Yeah, we may get upset, but you won't be holding on to no grudges. I mean, it's been some stuff hitting the fan lately, but it ain't been longer than 40 minutes, and I ain't been trying to push past 40 minutes. But it's like you learn how to quicker, like, okay, you'll be mad for about 5 or 10 minutes or whatever, and just, you know what, I'm just going to let this go. I'm going to let it go and let God. And that whole letting God is going ahead and giving it to him, putting that word on your heart. And this is where we're starting off with the Proverbs. So with this whole my son, now we got daughters listening to this as well, and in reading Proverbs. So now on one thing, we could do a whole flip of the script thing, and it's so much connected with this. So on one hand, it could be my daughter. On another hand, this is the wisdom that you want your man to be paying attention to. And also in the woman that you want to be, as far as the woman of wisdom. You do not want to be a harlot. And I mean, no disrespect to my ladies of the night, because it's worse. I mean, it's more respect to the prostitutes, because they are who they are. And I mean, it could be men too. We explained this the other video. My goodness. So please don't take this like how I'm saying it. But you know what I'm saying. But as far as here it is, where we have the prostitutes, and we're seeing how they're talking. We're seeing what they're doing. We're seeing the type of woman that they are. So this is teaching us as women, we don't want to be that type of woman. We don't want to be married. My bad, because they had got distracted somewhere else. No, the prostitutes is one thing, because they're known. But when you are married to someone and you are out there like a prostitute, luring men, that's a whole nother something else, baby. That's a whole nother something else. So I low-key had kind of mixed up what I said a little bit earlier. So just scratch that. We do not want to be acting as if and making agreements, especially on contracts, that we are committed to somebody where deep down inside we out there for them streets. So be for real with yourself. And so in looking at, even if that's the lifestyle you choose, it's still look at the corruption that you're creating. And if you feeling like that, are you sure you want to be married? And so it's levels to how we can look at these proverbs. And if you're looking for a good man, a purposeful man, a man of God, a man who is considering you, these are like things that you want the man to actually be paying attention to, because you wouldn't want a man who is around men who are trying to lead him to death as well. And so it's like you want to be a woman of wisdom. You want to be able to recognize these things, and also want to have a man who is sensitive to you, who is listening to you when you're paying attention to certain type of things. This is also why we want to be a woman of integrity, because you don't want to just be going off, flip off at the mouth, and then when it comes to a time of needing to be able to tell him something, he don't want to listen to you because you done talked about everybody and said everything. So now you can't trust nothing you saying because you just be talking. And so we want to look at the wisdom that even the men are gaining, and not just be looking at it like, well, he ain't saying my daughter, so why should I even listen? It's wisdom. I don't care who is talking to. What is that saying? That is a treasure, my king and queen. And so we want to get deep into that treasure and see what it is that they talking about. And so when we get to a place of actually seeing how God loves us, and it's in John, God so loved the world that he gave. He didn't take, he gave. He gave us a son who helps us to see the things that he saw with the dad. Like, this is how we get to this whole father-child relationship, because he is in us. And so in looking at his son want to live in us, and we his children, that is a key, the master key. We always looking for master keys to something. How about the master key to the kingdom? This is part of the master key in love, and receiving this love that he gave us, and looking into that, because it is about relationships. So the whole thing is, people are going to be people. When you get into this relationship thing, you'll help and get forgiveness for your parent, because you'll see that they felt that they made the best decisions. They weren't in a place of a maturity. Just once you got into a relationship, you saw like, maybe that's why they made the decision that they made, and you know what I'm saying. So forgive your parents. Hell, I was watching this movie called The Cursed Man, and even if your dad was similar to the cursed man, God can deliver you from that. But anywho, because I'm not gonna make this super long. He wanted to know if dark magic was for real. And so he wanted curses put on him. When I tell you, I was wishing this was a live YouTube video, because I wanted to send him the comment like, bro, just watch the skeleton key. Watch the skeleton key. Let that process for a little bit, then come back to us and see if this is something that you still want to find out. But anywho, a lot of us are looking at what our parents did and how, well, I'm like this because of them or what. Friend, we have the opportunity to actually be better. Even if you had the best parents that you felt in the world, we still have the opportunity to be better and getting to know love on our own. Whether you knew your dad or didn't know your dad, now it's welcome to the family, G. Welcome to the family. Because this dad right here will help you get better understanding on your dad, help you have better understanding and wisdom to be a better father or mother, and to better see yourself as a better father, or to see a father out there. So, friend, we want to receive this love of God, because Big Papa is the cure to all of your daddy issues. I'm telling you, friend, because when you experience this love, the love that he has for you, it ain't like no other. It ain't like no other. My brother and sister, I love you. Until next time, like, share, and subscribe, because God loves you even more, and you want to find out why. So get all up in them there Proverbs. That's a start. And if you feel a little curious, go ahead and get into another book. Until next time.